Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to more of that thing that you like. Psyched to be with you, with me, your host, Christopher Leach, aka Chimp195. It is a pleasure and a privilege, as always, to welcome yet another very special guest to the show, providing yet more breadth, depth, knowledge, awesomeness, and I'm pleased to say another delightful accent that I'm not sure we've had on the show before. I may be wrong, but I enjoy them all equally. If you are unfamiliar with the show, this is the show where me, Chris, chat to people about cool things that they do and why. And that's basically the show in a nutshell. So all that remains for me to do really is to pass it over to you, my special guest, to introduce yourself. Please tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi everyone, my name's Danielle Roe. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Birmingham, but also a huge nerd. So anything video games, music, telly, I can talk for hours about that, you'll be pleased to know.
Apologies, we had a little Windows noise just then. That was my bad. I was altering my volume. Anywho, nerdiness, like it. I'm a big fan. If you've been on this show or around this stream before, you'll know that is a thing to be true. I'm also a PhD, so big fan of that. Let's get stuck in with that PhD. What's going on with that? Give us the skinny.
Yeah, so I research all about LGBTQIA plus identity, so lesbian, gay, bi, trans, intersex, asexual identity online specifically, just as a way to get that extra bit of geekiness in there. So as you can see, I've got like the trans flag in the background. I've also got my LGBT flag, rainbow flag up here. And obviously rainbow tie-dye, so very on brand.
On brand,
And
love it.
I look, yeah, oh, definitely. It's all about the brand. And so I look at trans and non-binary identity and sort of how they're a minority within the community itself. And you'd think that LGBT people, it'd be pretty accepting and pretty cool about people being on these fringe identities, but it turns out they're not. So just looking at how resilience can be built in the trans community, so people don't get as impacted in terms of mental health and just feel super comfortable in themselves. So that's the goal, and looking at the intersections in the community and sort of intersectional identity and how that impacts the way that people sort of flow through this community. So lots of really interesting stuff, but essentially, to sum it all up, if it's something gay, I will research it.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'll be honest. I'm aware of obviously the communities and stuff. But I'm not a member of those other than being an ally. It's the kind of thing where I feel like I'm as informed as I can be. Like, even though that, like, that's not very much, and I say that as someone who, like, is essentially whiter than white and a straight cisgendered male.
Yeah.
So I'm. It's almost like that thing of like you can never trust what you read on Twitter because you don't know who's actually giving you those opinions. And obviously, I think empathy is a skill that not enough people use. So I try and listen to people, from the LGBTQIA plus community when I meet them, when I chat to them. I'm a big fan of the folks over at Queer Women in Esports, for example.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
there's loads of great people in the space, but this is a thing where, if I was asked, I would say I do not know enough about. Being really
Yeah,
honest.
to be honest, I think a lot of people are like that, and even people within the community, even though it's like my research area as well, there's things that I learn and I'm like, oh, that was so obvious now somebody's told me. So I'm cisgender, but obviously researching in this like trans space, so I'm very aware that I don't want to speak for people. I just kind of want to use my cis privilege to elevate them and sort of like jam my foot in the door so they can then push through. And I think that's really an important thing, to make sure you're not speaking for people. But yeah, definitely, I think people worry about asking questions, and I totally understand why some people don't feel comfortable having sort of their identity questioned almost. But in terms of me, I'm super chill, and if you've got a question, I'm more than happy to just answer stuff. impossible to shame. I've got no shame or dignity left to lose. So.
Oh, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth for us all? I mean, isn't that like a prerequisite of doing a PhD?
Pretty much, yeah.
You give those things up upon arrival.
Oh yeah, I mean that's assuming I had them before.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? I try and be aware. I try and be knowledgeable. I did a poor job of it at the start of this, but I do usually introduce my pronouns. They're on the video feed. They're he, him. And it was Trans Visibility Day a couple of days ago at the point of recording.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing. I think at the end of the day, it sounds daft, but it's kind of my view for everything. Whenever we talk about minorities, and I say this as someone as part of the disabled community, like at the end of the day, everyone should have the right to just live their life and be happy. They're not hurting anyone else or themselves. Like, what it makes. And I always say this. I used to say, and it's because I wasn't good with words. I used to say I didn't care. That's wrong. I do care. I'm just saying it doesn't matter to me in that it does not affect me negatively. Like, if you are just doing your thing and you're happy, that's great. I enjoy that. You do you. I am like, go for it.
Yeah. Same. It's like the toilet debate with like trans people at the minute. I'm like, as long as you wash your hands, I don't care. Just do your business, wash your hands, get on. It's what it is, isn't it? It's literally no impact on my life at all. My life's only been enhanced by knowing amazing trans people and non-binary people. And yeah, I kind of feel sorry for people that shut off that side of sort of making friends and meeting new people for the sake of one thing. I mean, if you replaced it with anything else, if you replaced it with race, people would say, oh, that's ridiculous. And it kind of is. So we are getting there, which is good. But yeah, progress is being made. It's a bit slow, but it's the same with everything. We will get there.
Yeah, I think I always say that like I like to like live in hope with like all types of stigmatization. I specialize. Listen to me. I research mental health. And like there's so much stigmatization with that. And, like we're seeing movement. It's really slow. It's very like Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill. But like we're getting there. I'd like to think that maybe we will eventually have change. Because as I say, like just like people should have the right to be happy. Like it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. It's like the same thing as like and I say this as someone who's incredibly privileged and playing on easy mode in that respect.
You got the EA DLC.
yeah. Who really is just like it sounds really easy for me to be. Well, yeah, I just want everyone to be happy. But as you say, it's important to kind of like uplift and support people when you can, and not just like shut that out.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm more interested. I'm not more interested. I'm really interested though to be like what, because I know academia, but for maybe listeners that don't, what's sort of the actual research telling us about this? Because research typically has done a bad job of understanding any minority community at all.
Yes. Yeah. So normally trans people get lumped in with sort of lesbian, gay, bi people, and obviously they're not this homogenous group. There's a lot of differences. It's kind of like saying everybody who identifies as female is exactly the same and has the same experiences.
Wait, you mean to tell me that all insert word I'm going to say disabled people aren't the same?
I'm going to break it to you. This might be cutting edge research, but yeah. So they kind of just get lumped in. That's if they are talked about. Oftentimes it's just in the title, like LGBT, and then as you read in through articles or research outputs, you're like, oh, they're not actually talking about trans people at all. So it's kind of that erasure and invisibility within the literature, especially, that's quite frustrating. A lot of the things that we talk about sort of in conversations like this, the community know. It's just that people aren't publishing it out there. So it's you know what grants and governments are like. They need
journals being tangible. Selective about posting things, like publishing things. What?
So they're like really, really selective, and they're like, we want a piece of research that we can quote so we can then go and say, okay, we'll do something about this issue. So it's kind of a case of erasure within the community, within the academic community. I don't think a lot of the time it's on purpose. I just think researchers being from that community helps tremendously. I know, like, I've had people come and ask me to do certain talks. I got one on, I think it was last year, on non-binary awareness day, and I was like, well, I'm not non-binary, so I don't want to take this from somebody.
Because of course an institution would rather offer you, a cisgendered woman, to talk about
Yeah.
non-binary things than a non-binary person, of course.
So I was like, I was like, I'll help you, but I'm like, there's this person, you've probably seen him on Twitter, Max Davies. They're at Brighton doing their PhD, and they do all about sort of gender-free parenting and non-binary lives. And I was like, well, Max is like the perfect person to do this. So Max and I did it together. So that's what I mean. It's kind of, I don't want to speak for people that my identity isn't the same as, but if I can just nudge the door open a little bit, that's kind of the goal. So that's my ethos, really.
I kind of think it's really interesting as well, because like from I'm going to say historical psychology point of view, when I was doing like my undergrad, which is, sweet lord, 10 years ago now, I remember like us being taught like about what was then called gender androgyny, and it was about like not having, not like conforming to gender stereotypes, not like boys can play with dolls and girls can play with tanks, and it was still very much operating in this binary sense, which we know is not necessarily the best way to go about things, as in it's the wrong way to go about things. And I remember like that, and even that like really like shocked a lot of people that was a concept even then. Let alone, and that was just saying like, let children play with whatever they want, like like that surface level stuff, and that still really shocked a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's slowly making progress, but I think researchers like to categorize things neatly, especially quantitative researchers, which is a lot of the scholarship comes from America, and they're very positivist and more quantitative than I'd say like Europe is. As a whole.
Can you just break down what positive and quantitative mean for us? Just.
Oh yeah. So quantitative research and data is like numbers, things that can be easily sorted, whereas like qualitative data would be emotions and feelings, so things that are a little bit harder to put into categories.
Numbers versus words.
Yeah, numbers versus words. And then positivism is just a philosophy that follows quantitative data. So they're into the numbers. They think there's one world and everybody sort of experiences it the same way. Whereas a constructivist will be on the other side of the spectrum and think that there's multiple realities and we interact with perhaps the same object but experience it differently because of our background. So paper's quite a good one. I always think that's a good example. So depending on what we print on the paper, it can mean different things. So if it's got a certain sort of ink, it's a design, it's money, even though it's still paper, and it's money to me potentially in England, but if I went to America, that money wouldn't be worth the same thing.
I mean, we can talk about the Scottish notes and like that's British sterling, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's a really good example.
But they sometimes won't accept it in England for reasons.
Yes, they get suspicious.
Is this
legal?
Is this Scottish money? Oh, I'm gonna have to ask my manager if we take this.
Yeah.
What? That's. I mean, okay, so maybe this is me being silly, but I kind of listened to that positive and constructivist kind of thing, and I was like, why would you assume that reality is the same for everyone? That's really, really silly. That's a silly thing to make. Everyone, like, we know, again, from sort of psychological research, but like visual perception is different. And that's the thing that's been well researched. So why would you then assume that everyone's reality is the same? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from sort of like the hard sciences and sort of getting perceived legitimacy through that. I mean, I am a qualitative researcher. I do use mixed methods if the study sort of needs that. And I know a lot of studies do sort of go down the quanti route so that it can be given to like a government or an organization and say 52% of blah blah blah, and then they'll be like, oh, we must
the case number.
yeah I was gonna, as soon as I said it, I thought Brexit.
Sorry.
So yeah, I think that's why and it does work for some stuff. Like obviously if you're melting like ice and you want to know when it thaws, then potentially that's a good way. There's always an argument for and against, and I think you just have to be able to justify your position.
I mean, I like to firmly sit astride this fence, and I am honest. I like to, I'm that new age researcher that's like, we really should be constantly doing mixed methods because it's interesting to see what the numbers give us. But like, if you're talking about anything that is about user experience, such as like video games and mental health, for example, my area, like you really need to capture at least some of that. Well, like, what did you actually think though? Because like that might not even connect with the numbers, but like it's really important that you actually at least ask the question.
Yeah, for sure. And like if you're doing something on like a scale of 1 to 10, your 4 might be completely different to my 4, and I think you just got to get that context, haven't you?
Yeah. So where are you in the PhD journey? I know that's we're close to touching that naughty question you don't ask a PhD student.
Yeah, so it's been quite interesting. So I started literally just before the pandemic. Nice. So I really like picked my time in. And I'm actually a self-funded student as well. So a bit about my background. I was actually homeschooled and kind of clawed my way up to this position.
Interesting metaphor.
Yes, yeah. So it's been a journey. I've gone all the way from like in the UK system, sort of like entry level 3, which is kind of the very first rung on the ladder, and gone up through level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm at level 8 now. So that's sort of, I've got that imposter syndrome of being like, oh God, I need to prove that I belong here kind of thing.
Okay, so I like to paraphrase Andy Chabilsky here from the Oxford Internet Institute. And he's like, he says it about his research, but mine is like, so his line is that if everything is addictive, nothing is, which is genius. But I like to change that with, for this scenario, if everyone's got imposter syndrome, no one has. I've got you.
Some people don't, do they? So they're the ones you need to worry about. I'm like, how do you be so narcissistic? I kind of envy them. I'm like, I wish I could just not have imposter syndrome for a week. Think of what I'd get done.
Oh, imagine.
So yeah, so to get back to the question, so just to sort of contextualize that as we qualitative researchers do, I've sort of just started my 3rd year, but I swapped to part-time just because I was having to work alongside sort of lecturing and marking, and it was taking up a lot of my PhD time, and I thought, right, I just need to just reassess where I am. So technically I'm 3 years in, but in terms of progress I'm sort of 1.5 years in. So literature reviews ongoing, doing a meta synthesis for that. And then I've got ethics approval, so it's kind of just at that stage where it's about to be the fun bit.
And what is, so you go on qualitative, are you gonna like just speak to some people about their identities, you're gonna do some interviews, and you're gonna...
Yeah, interviews, definitely. I was gonna do photo elicitation, but as like
tell us more about that.
Yeah, so photo elicitation is getting people to capture their experiences through images, and it's quite good for sort of getting under the surface. So you could say something about an experience but have not really thought about it that much, and then when you show an image to somebody and say, oh, can you explain what you were thinking about with this, and they sort of go off on a tangent, and you get some really like dirty data, which is what I like to call it. And then you can like polish it up nice for the publication, but that's like the nitty gritty stuff that is not surface level. It's sort of diving under and finding out what the crux of somebody's point and meaning and experience is.
Tell me if I'm wrong, and I'll provide this with a definition. But like I heard about this a few years back when it called photo voice, and it's almost like it attempts to, you could say perhaps whimsically, but like it attempts to bridge that gap between like, a researcher examining a participant under a participant situation, and like ethnography, like an ethnography being like a study where you insert yourself into a community to try and fully understand it that way, albeit sometimes perhaps not truly acknowledging that by being an outsider inserting into the community that might impact biases and research. Long story short there. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But like it's just trying to bridge that gap of like, well, how can we use the technologies that we've got to further understand people's experiences beyond their words, especially when, like, I've been told I'm very good at articulating what I mean. Not everyone has that skill, and that's fine. So just trying to open up those opportunities to try and get a little bit more data, not necessarily dirty data as you put it.
There's another project that I was part of where we were looking at experiences of autistic people who were non-binary and how they interact with gaming, social media, and especially, like you say, in situations where people might not be as good at communicating verbally, but they can like draw an amazing picture that perfectly sums up what they want to say. That we found that was really useful there. So we used photo elicitation there, and that's sort of one of the examples.
Okay, excellent. So what's sort of next? So you're about to sort of start getting some data, what sort of like, I'm trying to avoid the question. Where do you sort of see like the research going? What would you like to continue working on after post PhD?
Oh, there's obviously going to be like millions of award-winning publications, naturally.
Of course.
I'd just like my research to be useful to the community. I don't want it to sit in like an ivory tower behind paywalls. I'd rather it actually do something. And sort of, if it can just help one person just feel more comfortable, then I think that's more important to me personally. But yeah, I'd like to do that. And then I'd like to, my supervisors always say for my PhD, it's not like the be all and end all, it's a piece of work. And I have to keep reminding myself of that. And I think when I'd like to stay in academia and sort of go the postdoctoral researcher route, and do more research in this area and get funding and do in-person workshops and sort of help connect trans people, because it can be quite lonely. So I'm from like a really rural little place that's like literally the only gay in the village.
Oh no.
So if I could like connect people, that would be really nice.
Yeah, fair. Sorry, that for those that don't know, that's like a trope from a what was it, sketch show? Yeah, sketch show a few years back that has been through the ringer a little bit for controversy.
That's so sad.
Recently. Arguably for like not even all the reasons you could have questioned it, but let's not go down that path. There are much more fun conversations to be had here. So that's excellent. That sounds like a really, really interesting piece of research and a really interesting area. And I love it. I love the sound of it. I can't wait to see what happens with it. It's the kind of research that we need. I always say this when I'm sort of questioning that I feel like we're on this precipice of there being enough exciting researchers now that are trying to change the system and are trying to look at these things and are trying to be more inclusive and are trying to provide a greater level of equality. That we're so close. We're like 10 years away from like people from minority communities running departments.
Yes.
And like maybe I'm really hopeful that can happen. Like
it would make everything a lot better.
It would. There was a question I was going to ask there, but I forgot what it was. Okay. So you mentioned you sort of like want to stay in academia, you want to go down sort of like the postdoc route. What out of interest, like why? Because myself included, but a few of the other people I know who are sort of PhDing, have been quite sort of put off by the animal that is academia.
Yeah. I think it's run by a lot of older white cisgender men who are straight, and it, like you say, it could do with some people who were not that to sort of make it better. So I'd like to at least be in the belly of the beast, sort of like a Trojan horse. So I can at least try and change things a little bit. And I also think representation is really important. So in terms of lecturing, just having an openly queer lecturer is quite important for people to see that you can be in these positions, especially with the current climate and talking about rolling back certain rights and not talking about certain things in universities. I think it's important to be a visible person that people can feel safe with and know that you're sort of you've got their back. So it's kind of a little bit of that, a little bit wanting to change it, and also it's just really fun to speak to people. That's the best part of research, is going out and speaking to people and finding out stuff, for lack of a better term. So it's kind of the social justice side, the research side, and I enjoy learning from people. And I think academia is a really cool place to do that within. You're surrounded by people who are way more intelligent than you could be. And some people are really good and share that with you. There's weird people everywhere, as we say. There's weird people that haven't got imposter syndrome. But people are generally, especially in this field, really happy to share and learn and co-create. And I think that's the way forward, not to sort of hide your research away and be a bit selfish and say, oh no, this is my idea, it's all secret and it's mine. I'd rather just share and learn together.
So, I mean, I agree with you a lot there. I love research. I love working with people. I even go so far as to say, and I've admitted this before publicly, I'll do it again. I enjoy teaching. I really enjoy that process of teaching, and like when you're with a student and you see that light bulb moment where they really get what you're talking about. I love that. What I like less is like the bureaucracy and the paperwork, and marking is the worst thing in the existence of ever. And that's enough to put me off. It sounds really bad, because you are right. Someone actually asked me this a few months back, and it was like, oh, do you not think that being in academia would be the easiest way to change it? And I said, hand on heart, yes, but I do not have enough spoons. Because
you've got to do what's right for you.
It's a common thing, isn't it, when you're from a minority community, and it's happened to me in every workplace I've been at. But they'll be like, oh, we have a question about disability. Chris, can you take it? I'm like, oh, yes, but I'm not all disabled people. And like, we got it approved by the disabled person in the office to approve.
The token tick.
And like to constantly be that person, when you're already trying to like fight to prove your existence in the world, is really tiresome. And like, that's just enough for me to be like, I can't. One person cannot change an entire uni. I can't be bothered.
No, that's totally fair enough. I don't like all the bureaucracy and the red tape and all the stuff that goes along with like neoliberal university, and the way that's going. But the actual learning side and being in the classroom is super fun. I like building, like, I remember the last lecture I did before lockdown, and I'd got like some Tupperware, and I built like a panopticon to explain Foucault, which is a French theorist. So things like that, and getting people moving around the classroom and doing something that's a little bit exciting and different rather than just a PowerPoint. I think they're the things that I really like.
I like to give it a little bit of I actually was peer observed recently, and like I was told I used the classroom like I was a stand-up comedian. So I give it a little bit of
all my material. Basically I'm like a failed drama student and must perform and entertain myself.
Okay, I love that. That's an excellent description. Okay, so that's excellent. That's some really good stuff. What do you do when you're not working now? I always like to joke that there is no such thing as free time. There is only non-work time. What do you do when you're not doing that?
So gaming, massive gamer. Always have been from as soon as I could like hold a controller. Also music. I play guitar and bass, so I like to just chill out. If stuff's getting a bit too much, just whack out some sort of good heavy music in that situation. And just pretend I'm Slash on stage, with exactly the same skill level, of course. Because I was going to be a musician until I realised that I did not have the ability to do so. So just relax doing that. Bit of telly, all the normal stuff, but gaming is like the go-to.
Okay, excellent. So what type of stuff do you play?
I play pretty much everything apart from racing games, because I'm not good at them. And also anything that's like first person, because of all the things I get like digital motion sickness, which I don't think is talked about enough. I think there should always be a third person option, and I'm like ridiculously passionate about this.
Well, famously, it was I believe Hideo Kojima suffers from that, and that's why
Yeah.
like Metal Gear Solid was third person, because like he had to get someone else to like work on the first person perspective in
Yeah.
the original game, and that's why you can only view through it and not do anything, because he was like, no, it's too much.
Yeah. So yeah, things like that. Like when Cyberpunk was announced, I was like, I'm so hyped. And then they were like, oh, it's first person, and I was like, no. But I mean, that didn't turn out too bad in that instance that I couldn't play that one.
It's not for me, I'll be honest. I like games that. Well, I was about to say I like games that work, and then I remembered I love Final Fantasy VII, so I'm gonna shut up.
Ah. So yeah, but my like go-to genre is RPG. So either Western or JRPG. I can sit and play those for hundreds and hundreds of hours.
The way they were intended to be played.
Oh yeah. I will happily just spend the day grinding out experience points and doing nothing else and just chuck on a podcast. But I will generally play pretty much anything. I've got PS Plus and like Game Pass, so anything that takes my fancy on there.
You might enjoy this then. I'll describe it in just a second. I'll let you just enjoy that.
Oh, cool.
This is a hardback book. It's a beautiful image that it's just, it's I'll tell you what it's about. It's a guide to Japanese role playing games. So the front image is like sort of two children playing on it looks like a Famicom, so purple SNES for those in the UK, and above that it's got like a whole bunch of like anime sort of JRPG drawing characters. It's a beautiful hardback volume that has like an entire history of JRPGs.
So cool.
Split up by genre. It's Final Fantasy's in there, Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger, Fire Emblem, all the goodies.
Yes.
Sorry, just showing off.
Amazing.
It's not mine.
Well,
it's not mine. My university has a policy that if you want it, you get it. If you can justify that a book is related to like your studies. So I definitely 1000% needed that book for research purposes.
Yeah.
Like, don't fight me. This was critical to my research.
No, that's awesome. I'd love to read something like that.
Sorry, just me flexing there.
No, flex away.
So JRPGs then. I'm a big JRPG fan myself. Well, just RPG fan in general.
Yes, yeah.
What do you like? What are you playing?
Oh, goodness. Pretty much everything. I really like Dragon Quest.
Nice.
Especially Dragon Quest 11. So I really like the turn-based RPGs. So I like a bit old school. So when Final Fantasy made the shift to like action, real-time action, I was like, too fast for my brain. But I got used to that. But like old school RPG. I really like Ni no Kuni.
Oh,
Not
nice.
many people have heard of that. So I prefer the first one. But that's a really, really good game. But then at the same time, I also will then go and play like more mainstream games as well. So all the big Sony exclusives are kind of a given for me. I also really like sort of like the Soulsborne games, so Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, playing through Elden Ring at the minute, so losing my life to that.
I mean, I played Dark Souls once. I was not good at it.
Nobody's good at it. You just have to push through.
And that's all I wrote. That's me on that one.
I can't.
Go on.
I collect trophies as well, so I've got like that OCD gamer that has to complete everything.
So are you? Pardon me for saying, but are you a pro gamer then? If you get trophies, how many platinums have you got?
For the sponsorship. Oh, platinums. I'm in like I'm nearing 250. I think I'm in the 240s. So I'm saving Elden Ring 250. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
one
just
of those gamers.
I mean, this is like a typical thing of, are you trying to make money out of your leisure time? Because if not, you should totally be streaming that.
No, I feel like I wouldn't be a good streamer because I just sit in silence and embrace the stress of Elden Ring at the minute.
But I mean, getting platinums is no easy feat, though. That's some.
It's gotten easier over the years. They used to be quite a challenge, but I do like I think really it started because I'm so tight. So like I don't want to waste any opportunity to get my money's worth. So if I get all the trophies, then I've got my money's worth from the games. So and then obviously slightly addictive personality. So I figured hunting trophies was safer than the other options.
That's fair. I'm glad I was about to like begin to wag finger a little bit there because as we all know, games are not inherently addictive or addicting.
No. Yeah, no. So yeah, they're my it's so good for my mental health. If I had a rubbish day, I'll just go and if I've had one of those days where I just want to like zone out, I'll play something like WWE, like the new wrestling game that came out. Just not something that's got like a tremendously in-depth story, just something to just zone out to, and I'm like, oh, happy place.
Yeah.
Hit somebody with a ladder. But yeah, when I'm in the mood for it, I like a good story.
Okay. I mean, JRPG fan, of course. I'm sorry. I'm still blown away by the number of platinums. That is astonishing. Even like I think I've got like 7 or like maybe 8 ever. I am the complete antithesis of that. I'm like I play a game, and then if I see credits, I'm basically done. Unless it's like a game I really really like.
Yeah.
But you hit on something like terms of value for money, because my rule is that for every pound I spend on a game, I want to get an hour out of, because
Same.
I'm of that. I'm gonna say that generation, such a day term, but that
We're getting
generation.
old.
Well, where like you'd spend like £40 on a game, and just I'm not picking
Yeah.
on the franchise, but like the new Call of Duty, and the campaign would be 6 hours, and they'd expect you to expect, well, if you want your money's worth, play online, but also pay for
Yeah.
online subscription and for DLC and for new maps, and then also like, oh, but if you don't want to do that, just play through the campaign again, but slightly harder.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very much the same. If I get down to like 50p per hour of entertainment, it just pleases me so much. It's like, oh, that was worth it.
Yeah, yeah, good value. So you sort of you're into your games, your music and stuff. What kind of stuff? This is where like I get to this where we get into the nitty gritty a little bit. Because I always think we're motivated by things, right? And this is the hook of the show. Why do you do stuff? So why do you think? What kind of informs maybe like what you play or what you listen to? There's that whole chicken and egg argument of is the
Oh
mood that
yeah.
you're in that impacts what you listen to, or does what you listen to impact your mood? And then sort of I want to loosely try and circle that back to like what is it about sort of the things that you do that inspired you to research what you're into? Like, what was the motivations behind that? So
Yeah.
it's a huge question, but like so what kind of stuff do you think is like characteristically impacts what you do in your spare time, and how do you think that impacted your study? Pendulum. I'm doing the
Yeah,
pendulum motion.
I think I'm very much a mood and then do something. Not sort of a do something and that impacts my mood. So like I said earlier, if I've had like a bit of a stressful day and just want to like brain dump, I'll go on something that's sort of not heavily into story. Same with music. If I feel a certain way, I'll listen to a certain piece of music or a certain band. So I think that's kind of my motivating factor in terms of mood. I also just really enjoy gaming.
Fair. Fair. I have to ask you again, sort of like typical questions, but like what type of music are you into? Is there a broad range of breadth, or is there sort of like a specific genre you stick to?
Yeah, so I studied music before I came to uni. The first time when I
Just for
joined.
fun, just studied music, casually.
Oh yeah, totally. I've been through so many disciplines. I started off in sport, and you wouldn't know looking at my body.
Okay,
And
hold
then
on. Let's
I
come on. Not on my show. None of this. No body shaming on my show. Thank you.
No, it's
Let's.
okay. I realized I don't like running or moving, and then I was like, oh my god, you can do music sitting down. And then I just regressed further, and I was like, I'll just read in a library. So it just got less. So yeah, I studied music. So I enjoy every kind of music. But I'll listen to it and I recognize what is sort of objectively, if you can put that in, what's sonically like a good song. But in terms of the genre that I choose to listen to, my brain very much stopped after about 2006 and just went, oh, late 90s to early 2000s pop punk, you're satisfied for life. So sort of Green Day, Blink, Newfound Glory, Bowling for Soup, Simple Plan, Good Charlotte.
I don't know how well you can see it behind me, but I've got like several Fall Out Boy posters.
Fall Out Boy. Yeah, so that's my go-to, and that's in my like Spotify playlist. That's what I listen to. I'll drop in like some newer stuff like Youngblood and Machine Gun Kelly, but I always go back to Green Day and Blink and Newfound Glory, Fallout, like old Fall Out Boy.
The new stuff's not for everyone.
It's not. It's decent. Patrick's amazing, but I do like sort of old Fall Out Boy.
The man is so talented. I mean, if you haven't listened to his solo album, you need to give it a
It's
spin.
not fair, is it? It shouldn't have that much talent.
Like, not only can he sing, he can write, and he can play 27 instruments to album standard. Who has that level of talent? Who? It's not fair. Give some to the rest of us. Like, why?
I know. So yeah, I love Patrick Stump. I wanted his like signature guitar for so long, but obviously they were just like ridiculously expensive for poor student me.
Yeah, I've like looked at a Stump-O-Matic repeatedly and then remembered I don't play guitar enough to warrant having one. Like,
that's okay. Just have one anyway. I've got the thing that I got with like some inheritance was I got a Tom DeLonge Strat, and that's like my baby. And I've got like a Les Paul because that like Billy Joe from Green Day. But yeah, I'm very much like a pop punk music fan, and then in terms of playing, I've been in like pop punk bands and cover bands, so just good, catchy, simple music is what I like to listen to.
yeah, I think like even like pop punk as a genre, like you sort of memeing and like, oh, Fall Out Boy's older stuff, but I feel like it's a shift. Music changes. It's very much like the ocean, comes in and comes out.
Yeah, it's cyclical, isn't it? So
like we're hearing a lot of like the pop stuff now is very sort of inspired by, influenced by, however you want to sort of frame it.
Yeah,
but it's very like 80s pop. It's the same sound.
Yeah,
the same sort of organization. Like if you could listen to like, even I'd go so far as to say like some lesser known Journey tracks and hear some of the same stuff you're hearing in the pop stuff now. You know, like stuff like that. I think
especially like this new wave of like pop punk, with like MGK and even like Olivia Rodrigo's stuff is very like Paramore-esque. So yeah, I can listen to that and I quite enjoy it, and I have it in my rotation on my playlist. But then I'll go back to like, I can listen to Green Day whatever mood I'm in. I'd say they're my favorite band.
Okay. Excellent.
So yeah, Green Day definitely.
Okay. Oh, I mean that's good. I love variety. Like I'll listen to anything. I have like
same
video game soundtracks. Like I love stuff like Krang Bin, a great band. Otis Redding.
Yeah.
Like
I
Lucy
love the
Williams.
old Tomb Raider soundtrack as well. That music is like up from the PS1, because my mum's a single parent, so she used to come over on a night shift and play Tomb Raider to stay awake.
Nice.
So she could look after me. So like especially in, I think it was Tomb Raider 2 where it's like Venice, that theme, that sort of soundtrack is really nostalgic, and I enjoy stuff like that, definitely.
Okay, so let's loop back round, as I mentioned, doing the loop. So kind of talk about what motivates you to do what you do in your spare time. What kind of led you to where you are now in the research and the PhD? You mentioned that you've done a whole range of careers, which is awesome. I'm very jealous of that, because that must be really cool to have all that different types of knowledge. But let's just talk about what made you really go, I want to look at this.
Yeah, so it's actually something like really simple. When I was doing my undergrad, so I did my undergrad in event management, and like a business degree, and realised I was into the people side of things way more. And they said, pick a topic for your dissertation, which is like the big piece of work you do at the end, just in case anybody's not in academia.
Bless you. Stay out of it. It's not worth it.
Stay away. They said pick something you're not going to lose interest in. And I was like, well, I can't imagine I'll become straight halfway through my dissertation. So I'll do something to do with LGBT stuff.
That just caught me from left field. That I was not ready for that answer.
They were like, pick something you won't lose interest in. And I'm like, well, I can't really, it's slightly narcissistic. I can't lose interest in myself, surely. So I did it about Pride events, and I found that really interesting. And that sort of was the springboard that then led me into social research, and I did my MRes, which is a Master of Research, and that was all about online environments for LGBT people. And it essentially is just, I am a gay person that uses the internet a lot.
I mean, I am told that a lot of people use the internet. That is the thing.
Yes. Yeah, so essentially it's a giant sort of vanity project. So I'm still very, very queer. So it kind of worked. I didn't lose interest. But it really wasn't like this set the world to rights kind of thing at first. It was as simple as pick something you're interested in. And as I learned more and met more people, I was like, oh, well, this is me to a T. And if you pardon the pun, and I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this because it's really fun and I really enjoy it. And then I started to see the changes and some of the research that I was a small part of, helping people and making them feel better. And that's a really good feeling. And just as I became more socially aware and sort of when you move away to university and get sort of your own opinions, and I was like, oh, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff out there in the world at the minute, so let's just do a little bit to try and help somebody. So that it started off as being something that I wouldn't lose interest in, and then it sort of took off from there.
Okay, I mean, I appreciate the honesty in that, and you're just like, well, you know what, I don't want to lose interest in my research project, so I'm going to do it on something I feel really passionate about, making it very vanity. And they're like picking up that actually, no, this is really important. Like, I love that. That's kind of like, it's a nice way, I think, to look at it. And more people should do research like that.
Well, some people have got like this amazing story where they're like, it came to me in a dream. And I'm like, no, I just picked it because I thought I'd be able to do it for a year. And now it's like nearly 3 degrees later and years later, and I'm still doing it. So it did work in the end.
That whole like Lou Reed told me to do it in a dream kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'd recommend it in future to people to do something that they just really like.
Yeah, no, I
mean, it's, I suppose, I shouldn't assume, but it's something similar with you and video games, like something that you really enjoy. You're not going to lose interest in it.
Well, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I can't remember if I said it before on the show, but like it was that exact same sort of philosophy in undergrad dissertation. Do something that you're interested in. I was like, okay, like video games, and I did mine on deviancy because violence is a lie. The violence is a lie. Get that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, literally.
And I was just like, okay, let's really look at this. Like, do people feel differently about doing naughty things, for lack of a better term? The term's deviancy, but naughty things sounds funnier. In a video game or differently in like real life. And it was just this really sort of silly, poor quality undergrad dissertation. And I remember like there was one sort of result that was negative and like barely significant, as in the P was like just over 0.05, because you really got to stretch these things when you're talking about numbers and significance levels. And I just remember, and it was partly that made me go, okay, I wonder if playing a certain type of games could actually be good for you in some way, because the games in question in this case were like strategy. So strategy negatively correlated with deviancy, meaning it suggested that perhaps by playing strategy games you were less likely to do naughty things. And it was that combined with like my own experiences of being a student experiencing ill mental health that made me go, oh, and there's actually like a whole group of games about mental health. What happens if you play these and then kablam, sandwich, let's study that.
I think it's kind of cool that it goes that sort of more natural, or not natural, organic way of sort of the research sort of finds you rather than you picking it, doesn't it? And I think I really enjoy that stuff. Yours sounds so cool about like deviancy and gamers doing naughty things, when like statistically gamers pick like the good option in games. Like when they release trophy data and stuff like that. I remember when Infamous came out and people were doing the good path. And basically gamers just want to know if they can pet the dog in games. They're not it's
That
like
is the question.
Yeah, people think we're gonna like go and do a shooting or something, when really we're just like on Twitter asking devs to let us pet dogs.
Yeah, you get into that whole, and it's the kind of thing that there is like research to be done on. Like, I love a narrative like driven game, and like
Yeah.
moral choice. Like I've streamed like a whole let's play of Detroit Become Human.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember that.
I'm a big fan of like the Telltale games, and it's always really interesting when you get the stats afterwards of like how many people did this.
Have
Especially
you played
when
Life is Strange?
I have opinions on Life is Strange.
Yeah.
They're
What's
not
the other one that they did?
they're not good opinions. I'll be honest.
What was it called? It was an Xbox exclusive, and it had a trans character, and it was voiced by somebody who was trans. I can't remember the name of the game now. That's really I'm gonna have to Google it.
Wait, was it the one with Elliot Page in?
No, that was Beyond Two Souls.
Beyond Two Souls.
It was by. Is it Don't Nod?
I love this. Is like active. This is the podcast happening like as it's happening.
Tell me why. It's called Tell Me Why. It was an Xbox exclusive. That's why I couldn't remember the name of it, because I don't play much on Xbox. And it had a trans character as like the main character. It was very much like the same as Life is Strange, that kind of style, same developer. But they had a trans character playing the lead, and it was really, really good. So yeah, I'm with you on that. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted because I was like, don't forget.
It's all right. No, just I always say this. I always feel bad because I feel like I'm ranking on a game that has such positive acclaim. But my playthrough with it was that like, while it tried really hard to talk about mental health, it didn't do it like as well as it could have done, particularly with like some really like overly cinematically like cliffhangery representations of mental health, to like a point where I got the bad ending despite trying to do good, and was very like, legitimately upset about it afterwards.
Is that particular scene literally is a cliff edge nearly?
Yeah.
With one of the students. Yeah, I know exactly what you're. I managed to get the good ending. I didn't realize you could like have a different outcome, but yes, they could have done that much better.
Content warnings and like the whole like it's one of I think 3 points where your powers don't work for plot reasons.
Yes,
which annoyed me
for reasons.
For reasons, and just like and the two big bees in my bonnet was that one. The 5th episode was just David Lynch, like, and I don't have a problem with that. It just felt like a really left field turn, but like the representation of disability in the game is just violently upsetting. Upsetting.
I think my privilege as being somebody who isn't disabled was I didn't pick up on that, so that's like.
So I'm gonna put like a light spoiler warning, but I'm gonna like leave it as unnamed characters. But basically, a character goes from being an able person to a disabled person, but like the plot line is they're disabled, their life is over. They're a really good student, but their life is terrible, and you get put into this euthanasia moral choice, quote unquote. Yeah. And I remember I don't think the clip exists anymore, but like I remember someone in chat was going like, "Are they going the way they think they're going?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think they are." And it happened. I remember just putting my controller down, just putting my hand on my head, just being like, "You did not have to choose this path." And like it was definitely chosen because it was like the devs looking at, "Oh, this is sexy. We'll put them in it. We'll put the player in a really, really challenging quote unquote position here." And I'm like, you could have had it where, this is what peeled me off the most. That they could have had the disabled character be really happy and having a really fulfilling life, albeit maybe they had like a terminal condition. That's fine, okay. But instead, the parents were really sad. They mentioned repeatedly how expensive it was because it's set in America. The school, oh, she's a great student, but they're not willing to build ramps, so sod the disabled student. What annoyed me the most was that it mattered for nothing. It was pointless. It was just for shock value, because you find this out at the end of an episode. The beginning of the next episode is all this sequence that then, for no reason other than character that caused it feels bad, rewinds it and undoes it. And I'm like, wow, you made a character disabled, put the player in a euthanasia position, and then just undid it like a YOLO lol. Like that's. I was so mad at that point. I was just like, this Like, this is how so many able to see disabled people, and I was like, I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think because I didn't notice when I was playing. I mean, I played it when it first came out, so it was like 2015 something. So I'm hoping I'd pick up on it now. But like pretty much like what you said with like LGBTQ stuff, I feel like I need to do more in terms of like the disability stuff and the accessibility of games. But my Life is Strange playthrough ended up being like super queer. So I think that was what I was focusing on more than the other stuff.
One
But
thing that
hearing you
really
talk
annoyed
about
me
it,
about
yeah,
that as well is that, because I also, like, I genuinely thought, like, I forget the Max, I thought
yeah,
Max and
Max and
Chloe, like, had
Chloe.
a thing. I was like, oh, they definitely have a thing. That was my reading of it. I was like, these are like, they definitely want to get them together. Um, and like, but it annoyed me that when it came down to the end, and okay, just spoilers. Sorry, it's an old game. There's several sequels now. But like, they only like actually get together if you get what, in my opinion, is the crappier ending.
Yeah.
Like, because like there's like because like, oh no, hold on, that's it. If you go for the, in my opinion, crappier ending, that's when they kiss. But then if you go for what, in my opinion, makes the most logical sense ending, they just drive off and it's not really clear they actually got together. And I'm like,
Yeah.
devs, you chickened out. You should have just had them go off into the sunset hand in hand, because that's what should have happened.
Yeah. It's a bit queer baity.
Yeah, right. Like, I've had a guest on the show before, Oxan, friend of mine, and we were talking about how like you'll get games that just have like a gay button. Like The Witcher 3 was the example she used, on how there's
Yeah.
one gay character, but you have to do like 10 quests to get that one dialogue option.
Yeah. I think Dragon Age is quite good at letting you explore different romance options and things like that. I think there's quite a lot of versatility there. But then I always ended up, is it with Iron Bull anyway? Like, it didn't matter anyway. I was like, you have my heart.
I know.
So yeah,
I'm gonna disgrace myself. I haven't played Mass Effect, but I'm told they have a really good system for that type of thing.
I've played Mass Effect 2 because, like I say, because before this is the first generation where I've been able to afford like both consoles. So when it was popular, well, it's still popular now, but when it launched, it was Xbox. So
Well,
I never got,
pre
I've not
Legendary
played.
Edition release.
Yes, I have got the Legendary Edition, but I'm saving it for when I've got time off from my PhD because I know I won't want to do anything else.
Yeah. So like, yeah, just so I always like feel bad ragging on like Life is Strange as hard as I do, but so I love like moral choice games. I think it's really interesting when you think
Yes.
about like, why do people make choices, and you can break that down into simply like, why do people play? Do we play to
Mm.
like see ourselves in the world? Do we play? And it's really funny because you can attest to that, and like, you're like, you know what? I didn't pick up on the disability tropes because I was focused on the queer tropes in the game,
Yeah.
because obviously that
Yeah.
resonated with you, and the disability with me. Um, so like, do we play to see ourselves? Do we play to go to fancy worlds and do things that we wouldn't otherwise do? I'm a bit of like a wuss in that a lot of the time I think, well, I would probably do this. This seems legit. This might like would potentially lead to the best outcome. And then if things go wrong, I will literally just go, screw everyone. Violence. Violence bears violence.
Yeah, it's like when it's like stealth is optional and you try it and then you're like 10 minutes later it's like everything's burning.
Yeah. I tried the stealth, it didn't work.
Oh, mind you saying that, Hitman is such a good game. I Hitman 3 was my game of the year last year. I played it for about like 150 hours, something ridiculous. I was locked in for a good while there.
I haven't played any of the new ones. I've played a lot of the classic ones, like
Yes,
Hitman
yeah.
2, like Blood Money, new contracts, like the old like PS2, GameCube era
Yeah.
ones. Like, good stuff. I like, and this is another joke. Like, I own the new Hitman games. I just haven't played them. Like, because
Play
backlog is
it.
a thing.
Oh God. Yeah. Backlogs are a thing.
Yeah, don't no. I've said this a few times, but like, it's very much like a guilty pleasure to like, you covet something and then you own it and you're like, yes, I own it now, and then you never play it, but you're just satisfied because you own it. Like, I've spent money I could have spent on something else, like food, on a game I'm not going to play. Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, oh, it's £4. Well, I can't possibly pass that up.
At four, I mean, it might not be on an offer this good again. I'll have
Yeah,
to
£4
take it.
for something I'll never play. Add to basket.
Bargain. Do you know what? I'll take two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, yeah, it's like that. I feel like I have to ask, but can you describe for us some of the beautiful ornamental objects behind you? Some of the wonderful statues.
I adore Power Rangers. It was the spandex and the explosions. I was like, oh, it's gay and I'm here.
Suddenly it all makes sense.
So
I've never, my perspective of Power Rangers have just changed.
Yes, it's so queer when you watch it back. So yeah, I love Power Rangers for the longest time. It's like, it's not even my guilty pleasure because everyone knows I like it. So yeah, I've got into 1/6 figure collecting, which is like the geekiest of geekiness. So yeah, anything Power. I collect Mighty Morphin stuff. I limit myself to one franchise because I'm poor.
The wallet would not allow anymore.
No, we'd have to do unmentionable things to get the funds for anything else. So yeah, just one franchise I stick to. So I've got like the helmets and stuff like that. So yeah, I just like to have a nice display. That's my one thing that is totally unnecessary and a complete waste of money, but fully justified to me.
It's not a waste if you get some enjoyment out of it. You can't put a price on sentimental value, although people try.
Oh, I was gonna say you can. My bank account says you can.
Bank account argues otherwise. Fair.
Lloyd's were like, the bank that I'm with were like, is this a genuine transaction? And I was like, yeah. They just don't ask anymore. They're just like, okay.
Why are you ordering a thing from a country that we don't know how to pronounce in a currency we're not sure we can pay? And you're like, listen, just ship it. Release the funds.
Just ship it.
And they're like, okay.
Oh,
your
yeah,
money.
but no, that's definitely my. I have to limit myself to just like a figure every couple of months because I can't even really afford that, but it just looks so nice.
I have to ask, and I apologize if this is a controversial question, but do you have a favorite Power Ranger?
I do. So if we're talking Mighty Morphin, it's Billy the Blue Ranger. Always been my favorite. I've got like the toys from God when it went from in the 90s. I've got like the original toys and like the new ones, and yeah, Billy, smart, bit of a nerd. The character that like the person who played him, David Yost, he's actually gay. I didn't know at the time, and he's talked about how he experienced homophobia and things like that. So that ended up being another aspect that I related to. And I just think as I watched it as an adult. I watched it as a child first and then as an adult, and I was like, oh, it's like
things usually happen in that order.
They do. I did try it the other way, it didn't work out so well. Yeah, it's like a diverse group of people, lots of interests, lots of different ethnicities, and I think it just like I do think it made me a more accepting and a better person, just to like see how different groups of people can come together. And then obviously also explosions and spandex. What's not to like?
I mean, you know, when you're talking about things people want to see.
Yeah, that's my list completed.
Well, I was going to say it's basically all there: spandex and explosions. What more do you want?
Spandex, explosions, and acceptance.
Exactly. I mean,
that should be like the subheading for my PhD, for my thesis.
If you don't get spandex, explosions, and acceptance into a paper at some point, I'm gonna be disappointed.
Challenge accepted.
You heard it here first on this show. So I like to sort of delve. You know, we've got a little bit of the why. I love that. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the psyche, blind psyche. That's a self-referential reference. No, I'm being self-referential to my own program, but I like to go for some sort of blue sky kind of questions.
Go for it.
And the first one is, if you had no limitations, All like, so there's unlimited resources, time, effort, expertise, access to individuals. What would you do? I usually, if someone I'm talking to does the research and such, I like to say, what would your research project be? But you can do anything.
Yeah. So a lot of my family are like nurses and sort of in the medical world. But I don't like blood or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if I could have anything, I think I would have, if I'd have not been like freaked out by people and bodies. I would have liked to have gone down the medical route and done like gender confirmation surgery, because there's nobody doing it in the UK. It's like there's such a long wait list, and especially for things like phalloplasty, they're just not done in the UK. So I'd like to have gone down that route and specialised in sort of trans healthcare.
Keeping it relatively family friendly. Can you explain what that is? Phalloplasty. I
Phalloplasty.
can take a guess, but I'd like a definition.
Yeah, no worries. So if you're sort of born with female genitalia, and you would prefer to have sort of male genitalia. I use those terms as what people presume are. So basically, if you're born with ovaries and vagina, you can have an operation that would mean that at the end of it, you end up having a penis. So they usually just take like a skin graft from either your thigh or your arm, and just build one for you. So that's essentially what a phalloplasty is.
Science has no bounds. I'm impressed, and like my brain is trying to like not imagine what that would look like. That sounds perverse. Just like
No, I know what you mean.
just oh yeah, like that's a thing they can do now. That's pretty dope. That's
Yeah, and there's loads of stuff on YouTube that's very family friendly, and it doesn't show like any graphic images. There are things that show more graphic images,
it's the internet.
but yeah, but people talking through the experience, and there's a lot of trans YouTubers that document their transition, both those that were assigned female at birth and those that were assigned male at birth, and it's a great resource, and they talk about it in a way that's so ridiculously easy to understand, and it's a great educational resource, not just for trans people who might be going through the same thing. It's important to note as well that you don't need to medically transition to be trans, but also for allies or maybe even family, if somebody in your family is going through the same thing. So things like that, I find really interesting and cool. And if I hadn't have been such a wuss and grossed out by bodies, could barely stand like my own, let alone other people's. If I could deal with the blood and everything, I think that's the route that I would have gone down.
So you have like no limitations. You have like unlimited resources. You would build like a clinic or medical facility that would deal with that type of thing. You'd want to invest in that.
Yes. Yeah, and I'd like to just do it for free. I don't want to charge people because
Imagine
and
a world where healthcare was free. Uh,
yeah. So
Sorry,
just
British
help
political
people.
jokes. Apologies. Uh,
Just yeah, that's if I had no limitations in terms of money and not being a wuss around blood.
okay, no, that makes sense. I also think just wanted to touch base with that. I think yeah, it's so important that like there is good information out there on the internet, right? I memed before, like I spend a lot of time on Twitter, probably more than anywhere else, and like that is not the most reliable source of information. So I take almost everything I read on Twitter with a pinch of salt, especially like if you go down, like if you're going on stuff that is not promoted by people you follow and presumably therefore
Yes.
trust.
Yeah.
And it is really difficult to, and I say this completely as someone who is like semi ignorant, but is like wants to learn and wants to be like
Yeah.
as much an ally as possible to the and every minority community, but like it can be difficult to ask questions. You pointed that out before, and it can be difficult to know where to go because you always
Mm,
find, and you see it even in the disability community, but you always find like maybe one or two people that like disagree with like your want for equality, and like no,
yeah.
I'm not oppressed at all, and really like confuses a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like I want to learn empathy, knowledge, like it's one of my favorite Father John Misty quotes where he's like at the end of the day, all anyone really wants is to be heard.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as like if you just listen to people, you might take something away from that. Even if you don't, at least you've given them the time to like listen. And like, yeah, I think that's really important. So learning about that type of thing. Again, if I sound really ignorant, then I do. Because I was kind of like aware that type of surgery existed, but I didn't know it was called that. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But like, you know,
But
it's like
a lot of people will call it bottom surgery as well. So there's like top surgery if you were to have sort of like a mastectomy. If you were say you wanted a flat chest or something, so that'd be like top surgery, and then bottom surgery for obviously the bottom half. And you can have sort of feminizing facial surgery and vocal cords, and they're amazing.
yeah, and it's, you know, and the thing is that there is knowledge out there for people that want to know. Just because you want to know, because you want to just be informed. Because believe it or not, being informed is good if you put in a little bit of legwork to see. So many terms are just rooted in ableism. Like if you put in just a little bit of effort into trying to find like a good reliable source.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always cite your sources, friends. Always cite your sources.
Reference it.
It's funny.
Full
I
reference,
mentioned
in depth.
that like idiom as well, of like so many like idioms are rooted in sight. Like and you know, I make mistakes all the time. I say really silly things, because like it's so ingrained in our culture, right? Like, and so much like
Yeah.
it affects the disability community, it affects the LGBTQI plus community. But so many of these terms that are harmful, you know, are just sort of bounded around.
I'm the
Like,
same as you. Like I'll say something and I'll stop and I'll be like, oh, was that like ableist? Or I said Chinese whispers the other day, and then I thought, hang on, where did that come from? And I have to look up what the sayings that you're so used to, just they sort of roll off the tongue, don't they? And you're like, I want to make sure that I'm not sort of going to offend anybody. And people say it's like political correctness gone mad, but I just want to, I don't see the point in not offending people if it's just like so easy not to.
this is gonna sound like something obviously a straight white looking guy would say, but like even like in my own time, even like again like past decade, like even the word queer has been used, I feel like that's been like taken back by the
Yeah,
community. But like there was a time
yeah,
like that was like used as a slur.
yeah. And some people still feel that way. So it's just, to be honest, I think the best thing to do is just check with people like what they're comfortable with.
What
And
you mean? Actually, like ask people about no,
I
ask people
know
about.
it's a mind blowing concept.
Get out of this show with your logic and obvious things. Okay,
I've gone too far.
listen. But no, like just speak to people, like work with, because again, it loops back to not everyone's the same. People might
Yeah,
want different things, and that's okay.
yeah, absolutely. Especially with like pronouns. I know a lot of people struggle with that. Um, it kind of rolls off the tongue now for me, luckily. But even I mess up. Like if one of your friends changes their pronouns and you mess up, it's you just go, oh, messed up, sorry, and just correct yourself and move on. It's not like you don't need to make a big deal out of it and make them feel like they need to make you feel okay. It's just a case of just a language shift, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. I remember, like, I've looked at a bit of stuff about being a good ally, like on the internet, and like that's one of the things. Like, because if you make, say, in that instance where you use the wrong pronouns, and you make a big song and dance out of it, you're just highlighting that to more people, but also like almost trying to make the focus about you, not them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like
exactly.
that almost like whether you intend it or not, but that type of erasure of like, I'm so sorry. This is about me, not about you,
Yeah, make me
kind of thing.
feel better.
Yeah, which is like really like self performative.
Yes, yeah, and I think I used to feel the same way when I was like somebody that I know who's in a wheelchair, and I was like, do I stand? Do I kneel? What do I do? And then I'm like, oh, just do what you do with everybody else. And they were like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, because again, a lot of the time, people from minority communities want to be treated like people.
Yeah.
Yeah, mind like shattering stuff. I know. Listeners are like just like going, what are they talking about? They're just chatting mints this episode. What is this? Unsubscribe. Like yeah. So sorry, we went on a bit of a tangent there. Next question, sort of officially in the list, is there someone or something that you'd like to give a little shout out to that inspires you? Now you can be inspired by a number of things, a number of people, but I like to give a little opportunity to my guests to shout out one person or one thing to really just sort of help signal boost them or just celebrate how influential they were to you.
Yeah, so there's kind of like two sides to this. So there's a couple of people who have really, really helped me with like my PhD. We've the three of us. So one of them is Abby Barras, Dr. Abby Barras. She's just got her PhD, and then Dr. Luke Ward, who's also just got his PhD. And we're kind of like the three amigos, and we chat all the time. They're both on Twitter. Abby does about trans inclusion in sport. She works for Mermaids, which is like a trans charity in the UK. And she is just, I just adore her. She's the nicest person. She will always help people. And her research is so important, especially at the minute with the amount of stuff that's going on with trans inclusion in sport.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly the same with Luke. He looks at non-binary people, and he works as a lecturer and also for CAMS, so he's into the mental health side of things. And they are just the most amazing people. I'm so lucky to have met them, and their work is brilliant. They're brilliant. I can't like toot the horn enough for them. And they're very humble and modest, so they won't say it themselves. So I definitely shout those two out for sure. And then on a more personal note is just my mum. I really love her.
That's great. Great answer.
She always supports me. She's my best friend. I still live at home, so after this, we're going to go and watch murder documentaries together.
Nice.
So yeah, my mum. So it's Abby and Luke, and who I adore, and then my mum, who's just my best friend, and I love her to bits and would do anything for her.
Well, that's a beautiful set of answers. I appreciate that greatly. As we sort of wind down a little bit, I like to hit you with a bit of quick fire question, a little bit of fun.
Let's do it.
So you're going on a little retreat. You need a little break from the world, don't we all? And we're doing Desert Island Disc magic rules, so everything will work and we'll have power and stuff. You go into an environment that you want, but you're allowed to take with you one film/TV show, one album, one book, and one video game. What do you take? You are allowed to take collections of stuff, so if you can buy it in like one set, like a box set of books or albums or whatever, you can take that. What do you take?
Oh, so if we go film first, so I'm not a film person.
You can take TV show. That's fine.
I feel with films, I'm like, I couldn't possibly sit down for an hour and a half and watch something, but then I will binge TV episodes for like 4 hours. So I wouldn't take a film. I think I'd take like a box set of like Bob's Burgers, because it's just like so easy to, I mean, I've seen them all, but I will happily sit and just rewatch them, and it's like my happy place. Mm-hmm. So I think Bob's Burgers, anything like adult animation, they're like not adult as in like sexual, but like adult animation, like Bob's Burgers, Archer, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's worth kind of pointing out that like there is, well, it's kind of always existed, but like, adults can watch cartoons that have like adult jokes in them, but the cartoons like Rick and Morty is probably the most popular example.
Yeah. So anything like that, anything cartoony. I only watch cartoons or murder documentaries. They're pretty much, there's no in between. So I'd take the cartoons to a desert island.
Okay, that's fair. What else?
And then, what did we have? Album.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
So you get someone to say they like music, and then you ask them to take a single album with them, and everyone panics.
I know, that's so hard. I think I'd take a complete discography of Green Day.
Okay, all right. I'll imagine that they sell that as a physical thing.
I mean, they do. I have it, so.
Oh well, there we go then.
Oh, I'd take that, and I'd quite happily listen to that from start to finish, over and over.
Okay. One book. What would you take?
Now, see, I stopped reading when I started university, like reading for pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
And I've just got back into it through reading comic books. So I've been reading the Power Rangers comic books and really, really liking those. But I think in terms of like something that would keep me going for longer, I think I'd take like a collection sort of comic books, like a volume. Maybe I've not read Invincible. Is that what it's called? They did the Amazon TV series.
I have no idea. I am not au fait with anything that's new.
And I liked that, so I'd do that, or maybe The Boys, which was something sort of like a comic book, Sin City, maybe Watchmen,
Okay.
something along those lines.
Right, okay. Oh, no, that's fair. That's fair. And then the best one, the toughest one. What game do you take?
I can't take just one game. This is the hardest question. Oh no! Now, would I take an RPG that would take ages, or would I take something that's like really replayable?
I mean, we can go wild card here. You can hit me with something like Final Fantasy Anthology. That's like Final Fantasy 4 and Chrono Trigger or something.
Oh, I'd take all the Lego games.
Oh,
I love the Lego games. They're my favorite series.
which ones?
I
do you
like
take?
serious stuff like LA Noire and Sleeping Dogs, but like I'd take the whole Lego series.
Nice. Are there any particular favorites out of like franchises? I guess out of those.
I mean, I've been waiting for Lego Star Wars, which at time of recording comes out tomorrow, and I'm so
Is that
excited.
tomorrow? Wait, what? When did games start releasing? I'm giving away the game
it's
here.
the 5th tomorrow, I think. Yeah, it comes out tomorrow. So I've had that pre-ordered for 2 3/4 years.
So we're recording this on a drab Monday in April. Well, when did games start releasing on Tuesdays? Remember when back in the day it
It's
used to
from like
always be a
America, isn't
Friday?
it? Yeah, America was Tuesday and we were Friday, but I think they've just moved to global releases, luckily.
I mean,
Um,
with like the advent of digital and like albeit
yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it?
albeit sort of
And
COVID
spoilers.
withstanding generally better shipping trading sort of deals.
Yes,
But I
yeah.
just
So
think like
I'd take all of the Lego games, but I really like Lego Star Wars, and I like the Marvel games as well. So kind of, I'm very much like a basic white girl. I like my Marvel, and I like Star Wars.
I would hazard a guess that you probably liked it before. It was cool to like Marvel.
I really liked it before it was cool. I liked Deadpool before it was cool. When people were like Deadpool's my favorite, I was like, but is he? What's his backstory?
It's like it becomes that joke of like you see so many like teenagers wearing like Nirvana t-shirts that can't name any more than one album and stuff like that, doesn't it? And like I'm
No.
not memeing, I'm not saying you can't like Marvel or anything. I'm just saying like I liked it before it was cool. I like a lot of nerdy stuff before it was cool. And like for that
Yeah,
like
it's like
one
I want
second,
more people to like it, but also like I liked it before it was cool, just so you know.
it's not a gatekeeping thing. We're not gatekeeping. We're just sort of letting you know that yeah, I've liked this for a while, and you used to shame me for liking it. How dare you now like it?
Yeah, we're opening the gate, but we've got like a little badge that says we were here.
Yeah.
We suffered for this.
So you take a collection of Lego games. That's interesting. I honestly thought you were going to be like massive JRPG. I really thought you were just going to hit me with that.
I mean, Star Ocean's an easy one because that would take like 500 hours to platinum. But just whenever I collect a collectible in Lego games, it like soothes my OCD itch. It's like constant gratification. I just need to be told I'm doing really well all the time.
Fair enough. I also feel like while we're talking about games again, actually, I need to point out because you were one of the people on Twitter who inspired me to finally finish Chrono Trigger, which was
Oh, nice.
a blemish on my gaming record, having never finished it
Yes.
up until December of last year.
Nice.
So
How do you find it?
So I loved it. I mean, I don't know if you can how well you can see it behind me, but I've got like the entire Dragon Ball Z collection that way.
Nice.
It's like all 16 volumes of Dragon Ball, all the Viz big versions of Dragon Ball Z.
Amazing.
And I've got Super like around the corner as well.
Nice.
Obviously, our boy Akira Toriyama, who did the art for Chrono Trigger. So love it for that. I had the DS version when it came out. I managed to find a copy of it underneath several layers of stone. Back in the day. And yeah, so like played it, got stuck, played one of the other millions of games I own, came back to it, beat that boss, then got just confused because I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing or where I'm going. Played something else, and then finally was like, right, I'm gonna crack open a walkthrough, figure out what the honk I'm doing.
Yeah. Just get back on track.
And like, because at the end of the day, my view of this is like, again, it's a bit of like a thing you'd be shamed for, quote unquote, you'd be guilted into, but it's like with an RPG especially, like as long as you like you still physically have to beat the boss yourself, and like unless there's like a game breaking kind of like throw a phoenix down and you'll win kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's cheating. Like it might, I'm not cheating. I was just like, where do I go though, and then kind of picked up the threads from there.
Yeah.
Also,
I think just
you can say I
however
was
you enjoy
cheating.
the
I
game is
don't care.
fine.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Hit me with that. I don't mind. I don't care. I still
Hit me
enjoyed
with
the
that
game.
cheating stick.
I beat it, and I had a great
Yeah.
time, and felt very satisfied beating that final boss.
Yeah. I'm like totally the same. If people want to use a walkthrough, it's as long as you enjoy the game, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to do a quick nod to that. You finally inspired me to help finish that game.
Good.
I mean, I still have many other blemishes on the record, like Mass Effect,
Oh, we all
Witcher,
do.
like so
I've
many.
not played what is it, BioShock. I've never played BioShock, so
Okay, so you need to check out the last episode of this podcast that went out with Rosie from Safe No World. She's a huge Bioshock fan. We talk a lot about that, and it's a great game series. Really, really good.
I know, like the twist and stuff. So I feel like it won't have as much impact, and it's first person.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
have to
of course.
I have to have like I do play some first person games, but I have to like have a break every 15 minutes and have some ginger water to like
Soothe the
quell
soul.
sickness. Yeah. So it's very very hardcore in my house.
Oh, I mean,
ginger tonic.
Oh, I mean, I could finish this game in one go, but I need to take regular breaks to stay hydrated. Oh, what a player!
Put my motion sickness wristbands on. I'm ready.
Oh, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry, right?
Oh, I know. Sometimes both.
But sometimes at the same time, if you're going really like maniacal about it, why not?
Yeah.
So we're getting to the end of our time together on this episode now. I always like to say, is there anything else that you want to sort of say about like what you like to do or what you're doing with your work or anything else before we wrap up?
I think we've covered most of it. I mean, yeah, people can obviously find me on Twitter if they've got any questions.
I was going to ask where people can find you. It's fine.
Yeah, even if you want to send me hate mail, if you're engaging, I'll take it.
Don't do that. Don't be filling Danielle's box up with hate mail. Don't do that.
No, we've covered everything. PhD got a book chapter that's just was accepted for publication yesterday.
Oh, congrats.
So that's something cool that's coming out. So that'll be out in October. And just feel free to hit me up if you've got any questions or if you want to do some research, or anything or even if you just want a game. I'm not much of a multiplayer, but if it's the right game, I will happily sink hours into it. So yeah, just reach out if you want to.
I mean, like, go.
And if you don't want to, that's fine.
go like full meta, and like, when are you going to start doing some like research on like trans and non-binary representation in games? Like, are you going to ever make that leap?
I would love that. There is so much stuff out there, and it's so interesting, especially I think recently with like when The Last of Us 2 came out, and people were like, oh, it's so woke, it's rubbish, and I'm like, but slight spoiler for a character. One of the main characters has been gay in it canonically from the start, so hold yourself and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I played the DLC to the original Last of Us.
Yeah, was it Left Behind? Was it called or
yes.
something?
Yeah, well remembered. Yeah, like I'm gonna upset a lot of people, but like I played The Last of Us and like a great game. But I really kind of feel like a lot of people liked it, like maybe more than they needed to. It's a little bit overhyped, a little bit. Smidge.
I think Naughty Dog are, in general.
Oh, okay.
Fair. I mean, Uncharted was all right.
like okay, so you know, it's not really a spoiler, but like everyone says, oh, the first 5 minutes of Last of Us, you'll be crying, and I was like, wow, this is a really boring walking sequence. When do I get to play? Maybe I'm just a monster. I don't know.
Oh no, I cried, but I'm a proper cry. Anything. God forbid if there's an animal in a game. In The Walking Dead.
Oh no, you leave animals alone. We don't play with animals.
But I needed to get through it for the trophies, so I had to like cover my face and mute the sound and just press the buttons.
oh wow.
I was like, I can't. Or in Minecraft story mode, when a certain animal that you form a bond with goes, that set me off. I was like, ah!
Did you feel any emotion when you had to get rid of your companion cube?
No, it's just animals.
Just animals. Fair. So you
anything else, I'm like,
take it you're not a fan of Pokemon then, because that's too much.
Oh no, I love Pokemon.
Like, no, how dare you make my Pokemon faint? I'll fight you.
Oh, but they don't die, they just faint.
That's true.
I can deal with that.
Okay.
I can deal with that. I like Pokemon. And obviously, if you're good at the game, they never faint.
Oh, pro gamer over here.
I wouldn't know.
Sorry, let me just bask in that flex over there. So you pointed out all the links people need to reach out to you on Twitter will be attached to wherever you found this episode. And you say that's the best place for people to reach you, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my inbox is open and I'm like okay for most things. No dick pics, please. Very gay. Don't like them.
I mean, just unsolicited images of any kind. Even memes without asking first is impolite. You shouldn't do that.
But yeah, if you've got questions or want to talk about research or games, absolutely. Just hit me up.
Okay, excellent. I always like to how the turns have tabled right at the end of the show and give you, the guest, a chance to ask me a question. If there's anything you'd like to ask, do feel free to do so now.
Well, I want to be like the eccentric sort that comes up with a good question, but I'm not. So
you've had this whole episode to think of a question.
I know. Maybe like if you were stuck in the last video game that you played, how screwed would you be?
Oh no. What I played? Okay, that's not actually. You said video game. I was playing June, the TTRPG yesterday, but that's TTRPG, okay. So that's not a video game. I'd still be pretty screwed. I'm playing Fire Emblem Fates Revelations at the moment.
Oh, so you've only got one chance with that permadeath, much like life.
much like life, yeah. And I like a bit of a challenge, so I play it on like permadeath active and. I'm playing it on the normal difficulty, but with permadeath. I love that they added options to have like Phoenix mode, where they come back at the end of a battle, or where they just come back in the fight. I love that those are options, although I don't choose to take them myself. Albeit, I thought about using the Phoenix version, because I managed to beat Conquest, only losing like 2 units. I'm very proud of myself for that, because it was the hard mode, the harder version of the game. But like they will point to I was spending like an hour trying to get through a mission, and then someone would get wrecked at like the last turn, and I'd just reset, and I'd be like, I could save a lot of time, and not like not disgrace myself in front of the gamers, because I'm like, if all I'm gonna do is reset to get them back, and it's only 2 turns, I'm like, I'm just saving time, but I reneged on that and just kept plowing at it, because I'm pretty sure it was a lockdown when I finished that, so I was like, I've got the time. I'm not going anywhere. Reset. Let's go. But yeah, that's a. I mean, it's so good. I've got 3 houses on the Switch, because of course I bought that when it was on sale like last year. I haven't touched it, but I'm like, I'll finish Revelations, and it's nice that it's like you get the OP units from both games. Then it's like really easy, and then like you get the extra bit of content, and it's like, no, it's really hard now, and you're like, I was not prepared for this. So I'd be pretty. I mean, I'd like to think I'd be a decent unit. My boy Robin, from the previous game, the Amiibo, already had white hair, so I was like, yes, I can customize my avatar with white hair in this game. I'm in it. Like my Corrin is called Chris, because I want to be that legendary hero, and that's badass. I have a cool scar and everything. It's great. Because people dig scars. They showed at your battle hardened.
I'm always the same.
So I'd be pretty screwed, because I would probably be a squishy unit that wouldn't be very good. I'd like in my head I'd be like a top level paladin with my own unique weapon, but I'd also be able to use magic for no apparent reason, because plot armor. But in actual fact, I'd be like villager level 1.
That dies first after 1 hit.
I'm too squishy to even be bothered to like grind the levels out. Like, don't help me. So yeah, I'd be pretty screwed. That's a good question. Yeah, no, because obviously the fate of the world is also at stake, not just my squishiness.
Yeah, but what's more important, really?
I mean, if the world ends, then everyone's kind of screwed. But I'd like to kind of see it be saved. I can hold the drinks. I don't have to be involved in a fight.
Yeah.
I can be the drink server, bar person. Like, a tall glass of milk for you, madame. Oh, a beer for you, person.
Bottoms.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you didn't. Come on. You're killing me like that at the end of my own show.
Oh,
Come on now.
I do apologise.
Sorry, that was like seconds of just like a really stern look.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, my last played game's Elden Ring, so I'd be even more screwed. I wouldn't even get out the tutorial area. So
fair enough.
So you do it better than me.
I'd exist and hope for the best.
You'd exist, yeah. That's like better than me.
I said before I played Dark Souls once and did like a bit of it and was like, this is really hard. Not for me. Because like, you know, and this goes back to I don't want to crack open a huge debate at the end of the episode, but like my thing with Elden Ring is that I don't have the time nor the money, like resources to spend on it. But like this whole like my hot take, if you will, is that it should be, first of all, it should be accessible. It should have options to allow players with disabilities to be able to play it.
100%.
I also don't think it's a bad thing for a game to be approachable because, firstly, if you're playing a game, and I'm not telling you how to play games, but if you're playing a game and you're like, the reason I'm playing it is because I get so emotionally distraught that I'm nearly in tears or really, really angry at a game, that's maybe a moment we need to put the controller down, take a deep breath and think about our emotional regulation, and just be like, oh, am I actually enjoying myself here? Because games are meant to be fun. I'm not saying we shouldn't be challenged. I'm not saying we can't beat hard bosses. I've spent 70 hours beating Celeste. That's a hard game. I'm not saying that.
But there's that next level, isn't there?
But like, you know, if a game is having that level of an emotional effect from you and it's not plot, that's maybe a second we need to reevaluate, are we playing games for the right reasons? In my humble opinion. Because healthy emotional regulation is good. Good for us.
Yeah.
Secondly, I kind of like, if Elden Ring had an easy mode and I chose to play it and couldn't get the trophies, but it allowed me to join in and experience the same thing everyone else was experiencing, that for me doesn't affect anyone who chooses not to play on it. Like Fire Emblem's a really good parallel at this point. Like if you play without permadeath on and that's how you choose to enjoy the game, that's great for you. It makes it more approachable for people. That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's also harder difficulties. If you really want more challenge, that's great for you as well. I'm okay. I'm a sweat of it. Because with Elden Ring, I know I'd not be good enough to do it, but I also don't have the time to just grind and then make it beatable. Because that was the response from a lot of people online. Like, we'll just get good or just grind. You can just level up. And I'm like, I have not got the hundreds of hours required to do that because I'm a busy person. And I might have like an hour or two to sit and play a game. I want to enjoy that as much as I can for that limited time.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think so much more needs to be done in terms of accessibility in video games.
And the people getting the accessibility and approachability confused was also really annoying.
Oh yeah, people like, if it had an easy mode, and I'm like, well, that's not accessibility. That's not entirely accessibility, but
it's approachability.
But yes, we digress. Yes, So yeah, totally agree with that.
Yeah. Anywho, apologies. Last little bit of a rant in there. Do you think we'll get the Elden Ring Platinum?
Oh yeah, of course.
Love it. Love that confidence.
It's not an option not to.
It's not an option. Okay, so I want to reply like to this video. Like I want you to tweet me when you get that platinum with a screenshot.
Done.
And then I will link it. I will retrospectively link it to this episode. So when someone is listening to it in the year 2035 and they'll be like, what's an Elden Ring? And they can click on that and find out.
Yeah. It's going to be 250, I think. Make it a special one. So that would be my 250 plat. So yeah. I'm going to play Lego Star Wars first, though. It's going to interrupt my Elden Ring-ing.
Elden Ringing.
Yeah, because Lego Star Wars is just, chef's kiss. Looking forward to that.
Okay, well, Danielle, thanks so much for coming and joining me on the show and for spending...
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me.
Your most valuable resource in time. Which is like the most precious thing that we have. You shared some of it with me and this wonderful studio audience. I'm joking, they're not a studio audience. Applause.
They were amazing.
So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really hope that everyone has taken as much knowledge and fun from this episode as we have had doing it. But all it remains for you to do is sort of shift over to the ending screen whenever I can find it. I never remember where it is. For our video listeners, they're still able to hear us. They're no longer able to see us. And then just say goodbye. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye, everyone. I'll edit myself out.
There we go. Excellent. All right. Goodbye.